All right, we got interrupted, so starting midstream, let's see. Well, where are we? Okay, so now you're just going through your sections. Main complaints, symptoms,
Awesome.
pain intensity, description, what makes it better, worse, all the normal things you would see in a typical chart. If some of this stuff doesn't apply to you, you just press the X and you delete it. No big deal. So it kind of just goes on with typical stuff. If you prefer to kind of freehand, objective findings, like that's fine too. You don't necessarily have to use these boxes. They're just there if you want to use them that way. That's more the traditional way. I don't measure things like I used to. I don't, you have to remember that your goals with your documentation are for the requirements for licensure, requirements for you to remember what you did,
Right.
to show improvement, to share with the patient, to communicate with us, other therapists, to communicate with doctors, to communicate with the patient. But it is not to justify treatment to insurance companies. So your verbiage can be a little bit different than you're used to. And you still, we're still going to use
Right,
measurable things, and we want
right.
functional goals and all that
Right.
stuff. But it takes a little bit of the load off of it. So all that's just preference and how you like to put things. So a lot, like if I want to just freehand a general description of strength, then I'll just put it in a box and dictate it or type it. And, if I didn't do any isolated muscle testing or whatever. So it just kind of goes on. These are the things that I use. I after I created this, I started freehanding more things because I would talk to the phone more.
Yeah.
But
God, that's
they're there if
awesome.
you want them. Okay, and then now we get down to, there's two things. This is a box I like to use a lot, and it's very helpful for everybody to use it because this box will carry through to every note. So this allows us to keep track over time of the functional change. So this way, it instead of having to search through the notes of what their last reassessment was, or what their unaval, what their balance was, or whatever testing you did,
Right.
is right there in front of you every time. So when you open the note, it reminds you, okay, I did those functional tests on this date. It's been a while, I need to do some, or look at this improved. And it's easier to find when you're trying to explain it to a patient, and when you send it to someone, it's right there on the page, and it's obvious that they improved or didn't improve. So this box is important to use every time.
Okay.
And so not every session necessarily,
Okay.
but to use on every chart, one of these boxes. So I put general terms there. So on the eval, I would put the date 6/7/22. Well, actually, in this case, this goes there. 6/7 goes there. So, and then this is where I'm describing. So like if my strength test was a sit to stand 30-second test, then I put my results there. And so then that carries over in these columns, and I can see as time goes on. Now, if I do so I just use general categories, and then the actual test is written in here. So I can add one here though, so I can say, if I think of it in categories, if the say I did some floor mobility testing, floor mobility, you can call it whatever you want.
Yeah.
You want to call it functional mobility, strength, whatever. Add it, and then I might say supine to standing, and then some kind of description of what the result was. So that's how I use that grid.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to include a PT diagnosis because a lot of these people we're seeing without a doctor's prescription.
Right.
So I want to say general debility or poor walking balance and safety due to whatever their medical issue was, or we can go over some other examples, but that's the general idea. And all this stuff is what you're used to. Now goals, you're still going to write goals like you normally would, but they don't have to be so verbose and crazy.
Right.
Like, you still want your who, what, why.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be, patient will be able to sit to stand, modified independent, for independent function, getting out of the car, to decrease dependence on caregiver. Like, that's all just ridiculousness.
Yes, for
just
insurance companies.
Just something quick, objective,
Okay.
that's going to improve the person's quality of life. And,
Right.
so that you can hold yourself and the patient accountable to what's going on. And then the plan, that's the one you're going to use the snippet for, so that you have the key points in there. For continued skilled PT 4, that's where you're going to write your PT diagnosis there. And I have in there 90 days or until goals have been achieved, because when you get a signed plan of care, it's actually essentially good for 90 days. So it eliminates the whole old way of doing it. And then when you're done, you're gonna click this button, yes. And what that does is triggers some automations that I'll explain in another video. But this plan of care was performed by a licensed physical therapist, yes. And then when you're done, then all you're doing is signing here. And it saves it, and you've signed it.
Nice.
Okay? Now, if you need to change something, it's no big deal. You go edit, and you don't even need to give it a reason. Just type something in there so it unlocks it. And then it's unlocked, and you can do whatever you want to it, and then you just relock it. Okay?
Okay,
and that's
so
it.
you sign it first, and once you lock it, can you still go back? Or
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Then you just
Okay.
go edit again, and you
Okay.
just need to unlock it, and then it's unlocked, and then it's locked. Doesn't matter.
Cool.
Okay. So that's like